Good day, everyone. I'm Yammuna Sivabalan. Thank you for the opportunity to share our study on bridging the gap, the role of parental involvement in English language learning during the pandemic. The COVID 19 pandemic caused widespread disruption to education globally. In Malaysia, school closure severely impacted literacy and academic development, especially for children aged 6 to 12. This situation highlighted the importance of parental involvement in supporting children's learning, particularly in English language acquisition during this challenging time. Okay, now moving to the problem statement. Let me explain the issue we focus on. The pandemic created significant challenges for English language learning, especially among Malaysian learners 6 to 12. Remote learning and school closure disrupted teaching, reduced reading and writing opportunities, and widened the learning gap for many students. So, in response, we aim to examine the form of frequency of parental involvement in supporting children's English learning and analyze how parental activities contributed to mitigate learning loss during the pandemic. So, moving on to the theoretical framework and conceptual model. Okay, our study was guided by Epstein's parental involvement theory. This theory identifies six key aspects of parental involvement. So, based on this framework, we develop a conceptual model that connects parental expectation, parents' education, social economic status, and digital engagement to their role in supporting their child's learning and mitigating learning loss. So, next, to gather data, we use a quantitative research design with an online questionnaire distributing via Google Form. So we surveyed 100 parents of 9 years old children and the data were analyzed using SPSS software. Okay, why 9 years old? We specifically focus on 9 years old because this age represents a critical period in language development. At this age, at this stage, children are transitioning from basic language skill to more advanced literacy and comprehension ability. The disruptions caused by the pandemic would have a significant impact on their foundational skill such as reading, writing, and communication. By targeting the gap this age group, we aim to better understanding how parental involvement could help mitigate learning loss during such an essential stage of their education. So now let's look at the result. Okay, so the first one will be the demographic part. So most of the parents surveyed were aged between 40 to 49 years. So over 35 held a degree while 32.5% had diploma. So on the income household part, 58.1% of household earn between RM 4,850 and 10,000 per month, which indicates a middle income demographic. Okay, so moving on, let's begin by looking at the first set of results on parental contribution to English language learning, providing suggestion regarding learning activities. So the bar chart shows that parents frequently provide suggestion for learning activities to help their children improve their English skill. The mean score for this activity is 2.68, which suggests that this occurred quite often, although not always. The standard deviation of 0.909 indicates that there was moderate variation in how often parents engage in this activity. So, another way of parental support their children was by explaining tough assignments. However, this activity had a mean score of 1.61, showing that it happens less frequently compared to suggesting learning activities. The standard deviation of this is 0.558, which means parents' response for this activity were more consistent compared to previous one. Okay, now moving on to the second set result on parental support for English language learning. The chart shows that parents most frequently support their children by using digital device for reading or writing activities. So these activities had the highest mean score of 3.03, suggesting it was the most common method parents used. So the standard deviation of 0.912 reflects moderate variation in how often parents use digital tools to support learning. On the other hand, allocating specific time for reading at home was less frequent. This activity had a mean score of 2.00, showing that parents engage in it occasionally. The standard deviation was 0.814, indicating some variation in response for this activity. So the key findings we can see here is parents were more involved in activities that require direct interaction, such as suggesting learning activities or using digital tools compared to passive activities like setting aside time for reading. Okay, the second insight we can see here is the higher mean for using digital device shows that parents relied more on technology to support their children English language learning. So the consistency in response, okay, the relatively low standard deviation suggests the most parents demonstrate similar level of involvement in these activities. So overall, this result highlights how parents actively contributed minimizing English language learning challenges during the pandemic, particularly using digital tools by guiding their children in these activities. So, conclusion. To conclude our study highlights the critical role of parental involvement in mitigating English learning losses during the pandemic. Parents played an active role in guiding and supporting their children's English skill, but there is a clear need for targeted support program to enhance this effort. So before I end, we sincerely thank the Ministry of Education Malaysia for funding this research through the FRGS grant. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for listening. Have a nice day.